What's going on, guys? It's your boy. Welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be ranking all three of the Dune movies. I wanted to go ahead and say this right off the bat. These are 100% my opinion. You guys can definitely agree with me. But I also wanted to go ahead and say, anytime I ever make a ranking video, if it is something that I think is like universally agreed upon, I typically will not be making the video because I think something that's interesting about watching ranking videos is seeing other people's different opinions on things. And so for the most part, if there's like 4 movies that come out or whatever, and everybody pretty much collectively agrees, okay, this one's the best, this one's the worst, this one's whatever and whatever, I typically wouldn't make the video. But that being said, I think I have an absolutely like ridiculous hot take, but I 100% stand with it, and I am going to stick with my guns here. So we're gonna dive right into this. Alrighty, coming in dead last place, and I really need you guys to hear me out, we got Dune Part 1. Yep, that's right, the one that came out a couple of years ago. I understand the people who really like this movie. I understand why there are definitely aspects of this movie that work, and I definitely think after watching Dune Part 2, this movie works really well because it's setting that up. But if we're ranking the movies individually, just as they stand on their own, just watching that one individual movie, I think that this one is the weakest of all of the Dune movies. And the reason I say this, obviously, it's my opinion, so it's going to be a little different from other people. In my opinion, there is no structure in the first Dune Part 1 movie. I feel like there's mostly just exposition on top of exposition on top of exposition. We're introduced to a lot of different people and a lot of new worlds in a really short amount of time. And it actually is weird because he separated these movies into 2 separate parts so that way we could, have the full story laid out and we could understand more about the different characters and stuff like that. But at the same time, the fall of Atreides feels so meaningless. We very barely get to know a lot of the characters. I feel like Oscar Isaac actually only has like maybe 10 minutes of screen times in this entire movie. And it's really weird because the majority of it isn't with Paul and it isn't with Jessica, and it really just doesn't make him seem like a really good family man. So like his death should be way more impactful than it is, and on top of it just like being a disturbing death scene and a very like painful scene watching him die because somebody ratted him out and then that person also ended up dying. So he died for practically no reason, but just watching that entire sequence and feeling almost nothing. And I think that that's one of the big things is when I watched the first Dune movie, I feel like we do not have enough time to get connected to any of the characters. We don't have actors that are just instantly giving us the performances that'll make us be like, okay, I love this character, I'm obsessed with them, I think that this is great. In my opinion, I feel like the cast of Dune Part 2 is absolutely perfect. Every single actor is perfect in it. But there's a couple of miscasts in this first one that I feel like bother me a little bit. And the main one is actually just and I might get hate for this, I feel like Jason Momoa in this movie kind of sticks out like a fair thumb. What sticks out like a sore thumb? Because for the most part, all of these characters here seem very otherworldly. There are a lot of actors who like you'd believe would be royalty in other places or whatever because they just seem so, I don't know the best way to say this, but I'm just gonna say they seem very like elegant, right? And all of these actors really give off this aura that they are otherworldly. And then you see characters like Jason Momoa plays Duncan Idaho, and he's just a dude, and he's a bro. And I understand that's probably part of his character is he's just supposed to be like a regular person, so he could be a normal friend for Paul to, be friends with. But it just feels so out of place in this movie. I feel like a lot of the action sequences in this movie are very lackluster in comparison to the other Dune movies. And I overall just feel like we don't get a lot of story here. It's just introducing stuff that doesn't get any payoff whatsoever because the entirety of Dune Part 1 is literally just like the first act of a 3-act structure. And it's not terrible if you're watching Dune Part 2 right after it. But if I was to just watch the first Dune movie and that was it, and I was like ending my movie night there, I would leave that movie with a bad taste in my mouth. And I think that that's my main problem here is Part 1's work. Right, I don't have any problems with Part 1s. I understand the concept of we have a 6-hour-long movie. We can't have this be, one long movie. Let's split it up. But at the same time, there should be smaller arcs and different characters, story moments and stuff that kind of set this up to have its own beginning, middle, and end. And since this movie doesn't have that, it bothers me a lot. And I think that one of the big things is the halfway point of the Dune story is probably when Paul Atreides has his first kill and he's going against Jameis in that like battle, and the way that that's how this movie ends and then it literally just ends after that is so weird and so uncomfortable. But yeah, so that was my hot take, and now we're gonna do the other 2, which should be obvious now that I knocked this one off the board. Coming in second place, we have Dune, the movie from 1984. Personally, I watched this movie the other day, and I will say, I think that this movie is definitely a relatively campy movie. I think that the acting obviously is not going to be nearly as impressive, but I definitely think that this movie is actually a relatively good attempt at the Dune story. I haven't read the books, but after watching those two movies from Dennis Villeneuve, I probably just butchered his name, but watching the new Dune movies and then watching this one and having a general idea of what the story is, I definitely think that they had a lot of aspects of here that worked really well. I think that Fade Ratha, that actor who plays him, is absolutely fantastic in this. Like, he plays a different kind of psychopath, but I think it works really well. He still feels incredibly menacing. He's a great villain for that. A lot of the action sequences, especially that final sword fight, in my opinion, work really well. And I definitely think that for the times, this movie was not that bad. I think that this stuff with the sandworms were very interesting, considering this was 1984. The fact that they were able to pull off some of the stuff that they pulled off, it's a pretty impressive feat. And overall, I think that all the acting performances are convincing enough that watching this, it definitely has some of the like campy stuff that I really like about watching old movies. Like, there's a lot of moments that are really ridiculous, and like you could tell the actors are like told to hey, act out this specific thing, but they have no idea what it's gonna look like. So like when they're riding the sandworms, it does look really ridiculous, and I find that stuff funny. And overall, I think that it just makes it a more enjoyable viewing experience, because at the end of the day, I'm not ranking these as like, oh, I definitely think that this one's a better film than the other one, but I think it's 10 times more enjoyable to watch just because of how ridiculous that stuff is. Obviously, it falls short kind of in the middle. There's a lot of exposition that kind of gets rushed through, because I do think that splitting it up into two parts made a lot more sense and made it work a lot better. But I still really enjoyed watching the 1984 one a lot more than I was expecting to, which is part of the reason why I wanted to make this video. And coming in first place, to absolutely nobody's surprise, is Dune Part 2. This movie is incredible. I really wanted an excuse to talk about this movie again, and then I was like, oh my god, I can rank all the Dune movies so I could talk about it again. I think that this movie is going to absolutely be the front runner for so many categories for the Oscars. I think that the sound design is 100% winning it. The VFX, it's probably winning it. Best actor, Timothée Chalamet, is at least getting nominated for sure. Austin Butler as the supporting actor, I could see that happening. Javier Bardem for supporting actor for his performance as Stilgar, I can 100% see it happening. And I wouldn't be surprised if Zendaya gets Best Supporting Actress for this, or would it just be Best Actress? I think it would just be Best Actress. What's it called? Rebecca Ferguson for Best Supporting Actress. I could see that happening. There are so many brilliant, like, high-level acting performances in this movie, and it's absolutely insane. Literally none of the characters feel out of place. And in my opinion, part of the reason why I like this one way more than Dune Part 1 is very straightforward story. It's something that is so complicated, and there's so much different sci-fi elements being added in here, but because they spent the entire part of Dune, like the first movie, kind of introducing us to, like, here's the voice, here's kind of what the Bene Gesserit does, here's kind of like the hierarchy of power and different like elements of like their government that they're going through now. And every single sequence in both of the two Dune movies that came out the last 4 years, every single moment feels super necessary. And it's something that I absolutely love, is like, there isn't a single moment that is like filler or anything that's like, oh, okay, we just need to show off this like thing and we're just gonna have this here. And unironically, something that I love about the Dune movies that I really feel like doesn't get a lot of credit, I appreciate movies that take place off-world because there's no product placement. Like, it is so satisfying watching a movie from an actual director and a company that is willing to just let their movie be their movie, because that's something that I hate about, like, Transformers movies will typically have really bad product placement. Marvel movies, really bad product placement, and like all these different things. But like, it's just so refreshing having a movie that's just a movie. And what's it called? I know Christopher Nolan's same deal. He doesn't have any product placements in any of his movies. There's probably a lot of others. I think Martin Scorsese definitely probably doesn't have product placement in his movies. But I just absolutely love that because it also helps it just feel insanely real and otherworldly. But yeah, a lot of things I love. The costuming in here, probably another thing they're going to win the Oscar for. The entire like design of the movie, I can't remember what it's called. Like, I want to say like the setting or design or something like that, set design. I don't know if that's it, but like with them spending the time and going out into an actual desert and like switching up, okay, we recorded on this set of dunes, now we need to record on this set of dunes, and then this set of dunes, and then we need to record over here. And because they also would keep around like giant jars of sand so that the sand can stay consistent and stuff like that. And it's like, that's just insane attention to detail. That movie is incredible, and I definitely think it's one that should be studied for years and years and years, because when you put this much care, time, and effort into a movie, it's something that is going to make it be insanely memorable, and I definitely think it is. But yeah, overall, great movie. I think that Austin Butler's performance in this is just incredible. I love his take on Fade Rotha. I feel like he's super psychotic, and it's great. The fact that the second kiss in the scene where he kisses his uncle or whatever, the fact that that was improv makes me so happy, because I'm like, that's one thing that I love about Austin Butler, and I definitely think that he's getting to this point where he's going to be like a big movie star, is like he takes every role that he has and he just like commits to the bit 100%. Like he's not necessarily what's it called, method acting, but when he's in character, he's giving 110% every time, and I love it. But yeah, overall, really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was great. I definitely recommend it. It's still in theaters, and I hope it stays in theaters for a while, because I believe since the first one came out on streaming and in theaters at the same time, that there was like a clause in this one that it's not going to be put on streaming services until at least 90 days after the movie's in theaters. So I think that you should still be able to see this movie in theaters for the next like month and a half or something like that. Like it's going to have a really long theatrical run, which I really love. I hope that this movie gets at least close to hitting 1 billion, because I definitely think it deserves it. But yeah, that being said, that was it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming by and checking it out. I love and appreciate you guys so much for watching. If you liked it, feel free to like and subscribe, and I will hopefully see you guys in the next one. Peace out.
Back at it again, but that's a relevant flow. So smooth, they calling me Mr. Elegant. Like an elephant, I got a long nose. Like a president, I've got a few hoes. Swift with a stutter, I'm smooth like butter. Don't see it coming when I slip undercover. Like a big dog, but I don't bite. I'm still a big broad, I'd win that fight. Come match you and I knock out your lights.